of the Westchester Area School Board. The first thing we will do is public comment on agenda items.
Thank you, Mrs. Tiernan. We have no registered public commenters for the Education Committee.
All right. Then the next thing we will do is approve the October 11th Education Committee meeting minutes. Tonight we have Ms. Chester, Mr. Vernell, Dr. Shaw is not with us. And
Yes.
we have 3-0 accepting the minutes. Next is the Collegium Charter School Charter Renewal presentation. Dr. Missick, Dr. Sokolowski.
Thank you, Mrs. Tiernan. I'll be presenting tonight, and with me here also is Maria Barber, who is the CEO of Collegium Charter School. So if our board would have any questions as we progress through this presentation, Maria would be happy to answer those questions and address any concerns that you may have. So we're going to go through a number of pieces, but what I first wanted to start with would be the reasons for renewal, which would be the next slide. So the Collegium Charter School did notify the Westchester Area School District at the end of September that they were seeking renewal for their charter. And we did go through an extensive review process. We actually visited the school in the middle of October with a team of about 5 of us, spent several hours there, met with the board, the administration, did some extensive building visits. Dr. Karen Herman was also able to join us there. It was a very positive visitation that we had. So we will then go to reasons for non-renewal. And I can tell you that there is not anything that in our report tonight that would signify a reason not to renew. I do know that there may be questions about some of the data that you may see, and Maria is here, of course, to be able to answer those questions for you. So we first want to start by taking a look at the enrollment at Collegium Charter School. They have currently this year 2,866 students, and you can see that in terms of enrollment, the Westchester Area School District, we send 234 total students. Higher than that would be Downingtown with 286. And then you see at the top there, Coatesville has the largest enrollment with just over 2,200 students coming from the Coatesville Area School District to attend Collegium. We did take a look at data, and here is where we do have some concerns. That taking a look at PSSA and Keystone data from 2015 to 16 to the last year that there was testing that we have state averages for, which was 2018-19. And just to share with you there are data sets there that are below state averages. So I'll have Maria will share with us some of the strategies that they're putting in place at Collegium as I go through these data slides. With math, we also see that over that span of time, a drop in scores, and again, those averages are, for the most part, with the exception of, I think, 3rd and 4th grade, they are below state averages. Science, these percentages here are on target with grade 4 being right at about the state average, and the Keystone exam just actually a little bit above for the biology Keystone. Grade 8 is also right at about the average for the state. So at this time I want to just turn things over to Maria to share with you some of the strategies that Collegium has put in place to be able to address the concerns that we see there for the state testing.
Good evening, and thanks for having me here tonight and the opportunity to share the good things happening at Collegium. I think over the course of the last 5 years, we have focused on building strong systems of support for our students. When you look at our test scores, moving into the shift to the Common Core state standards, I don't believe adequate preparation was done for our staff, so hence why I believe the scores took a big hit initially. And the lack of a strong MTSS system, which we have spent the last 4 years building to really target our students who require additional interventions. So what we've been implementing over the last couple of years is a universal screener 3 times per year in grades K to 12. Students are identified for Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions using if-then statements identified by the school-wide team. And then some specific intervention programs that we've put in place are Key Math, Wharton Gillingham, and Hegarty Bridging the Gap. Tier 2 and Tier 3 data teams meet to review data on a 6-week cycle and determine if students need to move in between the tiers. And grade level teams are meeting to review Tier 1 data, and collaboratively plan instruction and intervention for students in Tier 1 that require additional instruction and intervention. Recognizing that Tier 1 really needs to be our focus, we are addressing this through beginning a real comprehensive plan for professional development, implementation, and rollout of universal design for learning through a cohort with Patan, as well as our direct work with the consultation from CAST. We're also in the process of reviewing our curriculum review cycle, especially our math program. So we are doing curriculum walkthroughs to identify any of the gaps in the fidelity of implementation of the program, and then working directly with coaches from Great Minds to address those gaps. Our instructional coaches, we have one in each building, are working directly with teachers on coaching cycles. Each teacher is required to have a coaching cycle. We've also added additional digital resources for our Tier 1 instruction, which has not been in place up until this point. We increased instructional minutes in math in grades 5 to 8 to assist in program implementation. From an intervention standpoint, we've added Key Math as our replacement program for our replacement instruction. We've identified, Number Worlds, for replacement curriculum. We've identified Key Math as a Tier 3 intervention. We've doubled the number of math specialists to provide both Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports, as well as Tier 1 push-in support in the classrooms. And we created a fundamentals and a foundations of algebra courses in the high school level, again, to identify and address skill gaps in students. So we really are focusing our energies and our resources on identifying students who are struggling and targeting the specific instruction and intervention that will address those skill gaps.
Committee.
Thank you. Any questions for Maria?
I have a couple of questions. So how long have the interventions been in place? I was surprised by some of the numbers. I'll use that as a term. So how long have the interventions been in place?
So we began building our MTSS system just a little over 3 years ago. And we started on the K-4 level. And then 2 years ago, a team from our 5-6 building participated in a cohort. So then the following year, we rolled up through K-6. Last year, our 7 to 9 team completed a patent cohort. So this year, we are currently K-9. So first year for middle school and 9th grade, second year for 5th and 6th grade, and third year for K to 4, a full implementation.
So you're seeing changes already?
Yes, we are. I mean,
are you able to drill down on this data? I was by gender, by race, by socioeconomic. Are you able to break that data
Yes.
apart even further?
Yes.
And report it back to us?
Sure.
Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
The training for the teachers, I think you mentioned something about the teachers not having adequate training to provide the interventions that were needed to make the numbers.
So in the beginning, right at the year, like that 15, 16, 16, 17 year where the shift happened to the Common Core, we recognized that teachers were not adequately prepared for that shift to the more rigorous standards. At the same time, they were asked to lift two pretty hefty programs, a new ELA program and a new math program. So I think there were a combination of factors, and then without having that strong system of support to help provide those interventions, I think there were contributing factors.
So I guess what I would like to see are some post-intervention numbers to see what impact it's having to the student population, because I was somewhat disturbed by the numbers as they were shown in the report.
As are we.
Any other questions?
The next few slides, we will share some local data, and that would be graduation rates. And you can see in 2016, 2017, there was a 4-year graduation cohort rate of about 92%. And last year, the 2021 school year, that was at about 95%. So you can see that it's been fairly consistent and around 95% of the students graduating within the 4-year cohort. We also, Collegium was able to provide data for AP exams, and in 2016, 2017, number of students taking AP exams was 87, and as you can see, that's really been pretty steady growth. I would say last year was difficult because of the scheduling complications for AP exams, but that was still close to an all-time high with 119 students at Collegium taking the AP exams. Then we see also here that with the SATs, back in 2016, 2017, a number of exams were 19. That has grown to, as you see, in 1920, 86, and then last year with a lot of colleges and universities making SATs optional, it was still high at 77 students there.
I believe that percentage for 2018-19 is incorrect.
I will clarify that then. Thank you. And then PSATs, you can see there as well, 115 students participating, and then in 1920, 188 students were able to participate, so some steady growth there in terms of the numbers of students being able to take the PSATs. And then we're sharing here that the students attending 2- or 4-year universities, and you can see that last year that was reported to be at about 73%. And for the most part, that has kind of toggled a little bit between mid-80s to low 70s in terms of the percentage of students attending 2- and 4-year universities. In the next few slides, we do have budget data, and this was extensively reviewed by our business department as well, Mr. John Scully, our Director of Business Affairs, and he did find that the spending at Collegium is in line with Westchester Area School District spending trends. The fund balance is managed and is not excessive. Next slide. We also know that the auditing firm used by Collegium is the same firm that we use here at the Westchester Area School District, and that the audits, Mr. Scully found that they were there was no finding of any concern with their finances at Collegium. And if you can go to, which I kind of just touched on. So everything there was in accordance. And as you see there, in 2021, the Westchester Area School District spent approximately $7.7 million on sending 457 students to 4 different charter schools. And then just some features of programs and services. at Collegium. They do have a longer school year with 197 instructional days. They also have as well a longer school day that you can see there for students in K to 6 from 8:15 to 3:45 p.m. And then for the secondary students in 7th grade to 12th grade, their day runs from 7:30 to 3 o'clock. They as well have a full day kindergarten program, and I was also very impressed with their Spanish program that reaches all the way down into kindergarten. And just talking to a lot of students and a lot of faculty, it's certainly something that they enjoy very much at Collegium. And then just a summary of our visit, and a number of us from the cabinet, Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Missett, Dr. Florio, Dr. Karen Herman, board member, I as well, toured their buildings, Dr. Ranieri as well, and we just found very engaging instruction. I would also say too, just the interactions with the students in the hallways, they were very mature, very polite, very cordial. There is, in talking to the parents, just a very strong sense of community at Collegium. A lot of the teachers were talking about how wonderful it is to basically have a K-12 program and be able to see all facets of the learning organization there on their campus. Teachers also commented about the, I guess, more recent work at Collegium with equity and diversity. That was something that a lot of teachers talking to them commented very well about. And then kind of just tying back to the sense of community, the collegiality amongst the teachers is certainly something very strong. And in talking to different teacher groups, that was definitely a very consistent theme that we heard from the staff at Collegium. So tonight, my recommendation to the Education Committee would be for the renewal that we would grant from March 1st, 2022 for 5 years, so that would go out to February 28th of 2027. And we would look to have full board approval later this month at our monthly board meeting. So any other questions or concerns?
I would like to say I have visited Collegium, been there for a day, and visited with students who are actually thrilled to be in a situation somewhat different from their home school. Their parents have chosen that option for them, and the students are very pleased to be there, and a lot of them are thriving in the atmosphere with somewhat improved discipline over perhaps the school that they came from. And I like the idea of having the chartering district, or any of the schools that send children to a school like Collegium, to offer the opportunity to the teachers that if there is cross-cultural staff development that we can do, that is a positive thing. We do it with preschools, we do it with the Family Academy. So if there are teachers who would benefit from participating, perhaps, and I'm asking this, Dr. Sokolowski, benefit from being involved in some of the Westchester School District staff development programs, that might be a very positive thing to do as well. Other than agreeing with Ms. Chester that it will be beneficial if we do look at the scores and how the remediation is going, because if you're doing a good job with remediation and your efforts to increase scores are working, the original design of charter schools was they would be laboratories of inventiveness that could be shared with other schools. So let's share. It's good for us, it's good for you. And so I will be voting yes to renew the charter. Sorry.
One question, Mr. Chair. The 197 days, what is the start of school year and when's the end of the school year?
This year, our first student day was August 23rd, and we go through June 18th.
Thank you.
May I make a comment, please?
Of course.
Okay. I was at the visitation, and I was there 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I thought the visitation was very good. I could see a tremendous difference with the engagement of the teachers, the way they were very team-oriented, and I actually heard a lot about the interventions. And it was my belief during the visitation that you were totally on the right track. Your leadership is different, and you're aware of what is going on, and you're aware of the needs. I heard quite a bit on, we need to get improvement in the data. We need to do this, we need to do that. So I was very impressed. I would agree with Ms. Chester and Mrs. Tiernan. We are very data-driven, as you know, but I do believe the leadership, there's something very different, and I think you're very in touch and in tune with what you need to do to keep the progression of this school going. The one thing I did notice, the children seemed very happy, which I thought was a pretty good thing, and the parents were very engaged. I think they're very committed. I think there's a lot of commitment there, and I also think that people are trying to do the best with all of the different skills that are involved also. So I enjoyed the visit.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Mr. Spackman?
Thank you, Ms. Sheridan. Thank you. I'm glad to understand that you are working at new practices and interventions and things like guidance, because one of the things I do see is, as Ms. Chester pointed out, is the math scores and things like that over such a prolonged period were under the mark. How come it took that long for them to be reviewed or intervened at that time for those years that they were under the ballpark?
I can speak to, my time. I arrived at Collegium in 2016 as Director of Student Services, and then moved into the role of CEO in 2019. So these changes have been happening, over the last 5 years. I can't speak to what was or not happening prior to that, other than, I believe there was also a large growth spurt and a change in our student demographics, which, again, in terms of preparing teachers to understand what is needed in the classroom and the different needs of the students, and to be able to drill down, those systems just weren't in place at that time.
And you feel now with the interactions and the different philosophies you guys are doing, that will be implemented now?
Yeah. I mean, when I arrived, our options for intervention were either identifying for special education or to put them in Title I reading. The idea that all students should have access to intervention, across Tier 1, to really look at our core instruction and the core programs we're using, to hit, all of our students with what they need, and then for the other students who kind of shake out, who need something different, to actually be able to offer something different for them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You ready to have us, we can vote.
Yes.
Mr. Donnell is not voting tonight.
Yes, I teach at Collegium, so it's good to see you, Marie. It's always good to see you. And just out of conflict of interest, I thought it best that I abstain from the vote.
And Ms. Chester, your final thoughts?
So I'm trying to take in all the information from people that have visited the school and so on. And I know that when you have a population that may not be as mainstream as what we have here in the public school, that it's the anecdotal information that sometimes tells the story. I think it would behoove you to really disaggregate this data and really take a strong look at every aspect of the data to see what we're working with and how we're truly progressing the students to new points. If we're using this as a measure, which we might be doing tonight because that's what you're showing, then it truly is disappointing. So show something that is reflective of who Collegium truly is. That's what I'm asking. So if it's as wonderful and as brilliant and the students are great and shining, let that be reflected in something that shows as data points. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? So maybe it's not always the SATs or the PSATs or this number, but find out what it is so that we can get a better picture of what's going on there. So as far as the vote is concerned, as far as keeping the school, then my vote is a yes, but I'm looking carefully at the growth, the change, the improvement that's reflected in the numbers that you're sharing with us. Thank you.
Mrs. Chester, I will work with Collegium and that prior to the board meeting on the 22nd, I'll work more closely with Dr. Barber to provide you with the disaggregated data, but also, as Dr. Barber shared, a number of intervention systems that have been in place, but moving sort of more progressively up the ladder at Collegium for her to be able to describe that more fully in a letter to the school board.
I think that would be good because our mission with our students is the same, to educate and inspire our children to be their personal best. Whether they're in this building, Henderson, East, Ruston, Collegium, wherever they are. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we are understanding truly where they are and what they need to succeed. So thank you.
Thank you.
So when we vote at the end of the month, this will not be on the consent agenda, and we will have opportunity to see more data before we come together again at the end of November. Okay, and we appreciate your coming. Thank you very much for all the work you've done. And we'll talk again.
Great, I appreciate the opportunity
Thank
and
you.
hearing your support.
All right, we're moving along to the 2022-23 course proposal presentations. I think Dr. Barnello is joining us via.
I am.
And we have a few other folks coming.
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm not able to be with you all this evening. Mr. Wagner, let me know when you're ready with the presentation or if you want me to do the screen share.
I'm going to have, is it easier for you to do screen share? Is that,
Certainly. Yep.
and that's what we shall do. Hang on 1 second, please. Sorry, your face is going to be big for a moment.
That's okay. It's like the 50-foot woman, right?
You are now co-host and you have screen privileges, so
Wonderful. Let me just move into presentation mode.
you are
Thank
good.
you so much. Wonderful. I do apologize that I'm not able to join all of you this evening. Coming to Ed Committee every November to share the work that our departments are doing is really an exciting time. Fortunately, I was engaged in an overly aggressive game of tag with my 6-year-old last week, and I'm injured, so I'm unable to drive right now. So tonight we are sharing with you some of our new course proposals for the 22-23 school year. You'll also see a few retirements as well. Tonight you'll hear from our newest position in our reorganized organization plan, our district department leads. So joining me tonight is Miss Annie Seagraves from our visual arts department and Mr. John Kramer from our music department. Mr. Carr is also here to share with us some of the work that he's been doing with his departments. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Miss Annie Seagraves.
Just the mic and press the buttons. There you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Annie Seagraves. I teach at Henderson High School. I'm also teaching with our cyber program, and previous to this, I was at Penwood Elementary for 7 years. So I have perspective of the whole K through 12 art curriculum. So just moving ahead. Oh.
It's, yeah, you go.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking at a couple changes in our courses. The first is to rename and rebrand Advanced Studio Studies Honors, and we're looking to rebrand that as Advanced Art and Design Honors. We feel as though that encompasses our digital program as well in this level 3 course. Then we're looking to retire portfolio development honors. We feel that's a little redundant, especially with rebranding the course above. We also are looking to retire graphic design 2 and 3 based off numbers in the past years, looking at historical data, and then also retire comic and animation 2 and 3. Again, based on numbers, and then looking to move them into the course Digital Design 2. The second level course would combine our students from Graphic Design 1 and Comic Animation 1 into the second level course. With numbers being lower in those courses, we feel like streamlining this will really allow our students to have their peers in the course, which we feel is really important, the collaboration aspect, and then also to just make sure that we're able to continue to run these courses for these students.
Thank you so much, Annie. So Ed Committee, those are the changes that we're proposing for our visual arts department. Annie and I would certainly entertain any questions or anything that we can clarify for you at this time.
Dr. Barnello, this is a process where you are putting some courses together and you have developed new courses. You are not cutting courses off at the knees so that students are losing credits or unable to finish a program. Am I correct?
That's correct. What we're doing is realigning to what we're seeing in art schools and art majors throughout our region and throughout the country. So if we look at the rebranding from Advanced Studio Arts into Art and Design, that's the course that would be the precursor for AP Art and Design. The College Board renamed that course several years ago to integrate the digital arts, as Andy mentioned. So we feel the naming and the combining will really set students up for success for a full 4 years of integrated art experience at the high school.
Okay, so at this point, she's going to start to talk about what the new courses are that will sort of take the place. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, keep going. Keep going.
Wonderful. So the new course is the one that Annie just introduced, the Digital Design 2. So our students would enter either Graphic Design 1 and Comic and Animation 1 and be funneled into Digital Design 2. Again, the numbers, I'm going to flip back to our previous screen here. Sorry. The numbers that you see there, the enrollments for 21-22 school year, that is across the district. So right now we have 16 students across the district in Graphic Designs 2 and 3. And we have 9 students across the district in Comic and Animation 2 and 3. What our new course, the Digital Design 2 course, will allow us to do is to have students further develop their skills in our Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, building upon that foundation and exploring the media, both in the areas of comic and animation and graphic design.
All good? We're fine, Dr. Barnello.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Ian Kerr to take over for his work in the Business Ed department.
Good evening. Very brief update on behalf of the Business Ed department. Actually just looking at a retirement of one of our courses. It is titled Computer Applications for College and the Workplace. It's a course that's been in the catalog for over a decade. It has not run in probably 6 years or so. So for full transparency, we just bring this to you to kind of offer it up for feedback and any suggestions. We did rebrand this course about 4 or 5 years ago. It originally was focused on like the Microsoft, students could get Microsoft certified at the conclusion of the course. Still wasn't running. We rebranded it to really hit the Google suite. Still wasn't running. The most student requests we've had for it is 6 over the past, gosh, probably 5-6 years. And most times it's like 2 or 3 students. So We've explored trying to do this in even in like a cyber setting, and within our business department, we have several offerings already on the cyber table that we've built and continue to build. Quite frankly, our business teachers they usually have so many different preps. And we look at the experience our students are now getting in 2021, 22 as compared to probably when this course originated back in 2010, maybe, that we feel like this is a course that could probably be retired officially. So I'll leave that for any feedback or questions that I can help address.
It's kind of like keyboarding. It had its time and then it isn't a course anymore.
It's everywhere.
And so many of the other technology skills are just integrated into everything else. They're not a separate course anymore that you learn how to use a computer for college or for skills or workplace. So it's just been, it's out of time.
Have you seen what has supplanted? You said the Microsoft Office suite was in that.
That was originally,
program?
yeah, so back in like 2010, 2011, students would get Microsoft certified.
So what are they doing now instead of that? I know they're.
I think Google certification seems to be the growing popular choice. I know a lot of our teachers are Google certified, and that's just where everything seems to be going.
Away from Moss.
Maybe I wouldn't say away from, but I would say definitely Google has taken a good number of the Microsoft customers, if you will. But there's still Microsoft certification in existence, and we still do a lot with Microsoft platforms. But obviously Google has just really taken over a good portion of what we do in terms of the curriculum that was already in place in this course.
Does Google have its own certification?
I'm pretty certain it does. I know for education it does. I'm not sure beyond that, but I know within the education platform it does.
Just trying to figure out what I should know.
Let me help you there, Ms. Chester. Mr. Kerr, have we been looking at maybe Teams and Slack and Trello boards, because those are becoming much more the communication tools within business environments today?
And it's correct. All of those we've embedded into our other business courses for exactly as Mrs. Tiernan just said. All these skills are really integrated in everything else we do. So like we have a social media marketing course, and those students within their project, they use Slack as one of their main communication tools for the reasons you just indicated.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments about retirement of a course? Goodbye course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very solemn occasion.
Mr. Kramer? Oh, sorry, Dr. Brunella, did you want to introduce Mr. Kramer?
Certainly, so Mr. Kramer is, that's fine, Mr. Kramer is our district department lead for our music department, so he's going to share some of the exciting changes for that department as well.
Good evening, I'm the choir director at Henderson High School. I've been there for 5 years, and before that I was at Pierce Middle School for 10 years as choir, also director of the musical as well at both schools. Our music department has been looking at our course offerings at the secondary level, and we want to continue on with what is going on at the 8th grade level. 2 years ago, our 8th grade general music teachers proposed a guitar course, and they are now teaching that guitar course in their curriculum, and we would like to now offer that 9th through 12th grade. Many students that are not currently enrolled in our high school music departments are playing the guitar. They are taking private lessons, and we'd like to get them participating in our department, offering that guitar course to that. It would be a semester-long course that the students would be then be given guitar lessons, ensemble skills, also incorporate some electric guitar and bass guitar with that as well. So we've been, that's one of our courses that we'd like to propose for that. The other course that we'd like to propose is a vocal Broadway course. Over our 3 high schools, we on average have 150 students participating in the school musicals every single year. This course would be a study of the repertoire of Broadway and the composers of Broadway musicals, and they would then perform songs selections in class, solo-wise, duet-wise, quartet-wise, ensemble-wise. So it would be a performance-based class that the students would be taking then, studying the compositions of Broadway. Also a semester-long course.
Excited, Mr. Spackman?
I am. Can I speak?
Yes.
I'm a big fan, obviously, of Broadway and music and the arts and things like that. I think that's terrific. And the school district has always, I spoke about at the last board meeting, have done significant things with, you know, all the different musicals and plays and dramas the district has done, and the levels of that have always astounded me, in the amount of craftsmanship that goes into the sets and designs and costumes and all of that. I think by elevating some of these different programs, and especially the music in the background, I think with the instruments is terrific. With the vocal Broadway one, is that something that somebody would have to try out for? Is that something that would be open to all?
It would be
who
open for
wants
all.
it in?
It would be open for all students to take.
That's great, because I know some of the different platforms and all, they have tryouts and things like that, and everybody gets if they want to, but having that open to all, because everybody should be exposed to that joy of music, be able to learn, and from that, I think even if they don't have, if they have a voice like me, I think, you know, come to Prague, I think it's good to get that, at least get to feel their stage, and actually, I think it builds great community, too.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
You're more than welcome to come join the class.
I think I will watch that class, but I'm not a participate, but I'll be there applauding, right? So, I think this is great, I think that's the way this district needs to move, because there is such creativity here.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
No more coffee for you.
We have 2 retirements as well. The school district does offer keyboarding, piano class to the students. We'd like to retire keyboard 2, replace it with either guitar or the vocal Broadway course. We will still be offering keyboard 1 or just keyboard to the students as a semester-long class. We will also propose to retire mixed choir. All 3 high schools offer concert choir and chamber choir. And the enrollment for mixed choir has been dropping over the past 5 years, so we would like to just focus in on the concert choir and the chamber choir and drop the mixed choir class.
Thank you. And then also, Mr. Kramer, we'd like to inform the board at this time that our recommendation is that we'd like to increase the leveling for some of our performance ensembles. So you'll see on this slide here that our concert band would be elevated to a concert band honors. Honors wind ensemble would be elevated to accelerated honors. Concert choir honors would remain, but it would change to a 5-day cycle meeting from 3 days. Chamber choir would be elevated to accelerated, and then that would also be mirrored with our string orchestra programs, with string orchestra going to honors and chamber going to accelerated honors. As a department, we feel very strongly that our students begin performing in their ensembles in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, that by the time they get to their high school level performing ensembles, to those audition pieces, to your point, Mr. Stockman, they've definitely demonstrated proficiency, that we should recognize the work and the craftsmanship, the musicianship that they are bringing to our ensembles.
Absolutely. These ensembles also require after-school time. Yes, it's curricular, but they do perform outside of the school day. So we also think that that time commitment also requires them to be honors and accelerated honors level.
Agreed. Anyone else? Additional? I think Mr. Spackman did it all. Mr. Kramer, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Seagraves and Mr. Carr. This is the part you know that the school board looks forward to every year, that we hear about new things that have grown, and sometimes it's time to prune so you can grow. So that's what you're doing. You're just taking a look at things that have really outgrown themselves or outgrown their need and added other things. And that's always good. So thank you all for coming and telling us what's happening out there.
We have one more.
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Froyo.
Mr. Froyo unfortunately was not able to join us this evening, so I'm going to share our changes in social studies with the committee myself. So again, looking at social studies, we don't actually have any new courses this year. Thinking back over the past 5 years, I've introduced a lot of really exciting social studies classes. So to your point, Ms. Tiernan, of needing to prune as we grow, we've taken a hard look over our data and enrollment data over the past 5 years that I've been here. And the department is now comfortable recommending to the school board that we retire 2 semester elective courses, Hispanic Cultures and African American History. Over the past 5 years, I've worked with our high school department chairs, as well as our building-based admin teams to try and increase enrollment in these 2 classes, to bring awareness to the courses, to, for all intents and purposes, create a marketing sweep come January and February with course selection time. However, those efforts have been for naught. Hispanic Cultures has never run since it has been offered. African American History, you can see the district-wide enrollments on the graph here. So again, these are district-wide enrollments. We recognize that while the content offered in these classes are important, we also recognize that it's, kind of addressed in other courses as well. So looking at Hispanic cultures, that content is largely covered within our world language department. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of students enrolled in our Spanish classes. They do a lot of work studying different cultures of the Spanish-speaking countries throughout the globe. So we're comfortable with that content being addressed for our student body. African American history, much of that content is covered in sociology, as well as our new courses, the race and ethnicity courses that were board approved last year and were introduced this year. We also address content in our U.S. history course and continue to work as a department to ensure that all of our history classes are an accurate representation of the history of all of America's people. So at this point, we're recommending the retirement of these 2 courses to the Ed Committee.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have to admit, I was disappointed to see that both these courses are being dropped. I think one of the challenges is how do you market a class in Hispanic culture to non-Hispanics? And how do you market a class for African American history to students that aren't African American? I'm glad to hear that some of the content is going to be covered in other areas and not just completely dropped. But in the future, I would love to see these type of classes promoted to students that aren't necessarily from the cultures that the content is about.
Absolutely, and as a department, that's something that we've tried to stress, that learning about, as global citizens, our students are going to go out into the world and interact with all different types of people from all different walks of life. So the more informed you are about others, the more informed you can be about yourself.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything, Ms. Chester?
Why not? I have a mic. So I guess I have always said that I believe that both of those courses should be integrated into one history. And, but to your point, I think it is very interesting and captivating, and should be to all those particular subjects. But I guess if it's not just on the side elective, that, it is truly integrated into history, into sociology, into those core courses that students have to take, then it is what it is. It's fine. So I guess that's my take on. I was kind of surprised when I saw that they were being retired, but I do understand that if they're not being, I don't know how they were marketed, but if they're not being fulfilled, the classes, then, I know it's a stress on the resources. So as long as the content is covered, for now, it is what it is. So thank you for putting that little side note there. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Dr. Barnella, were either of these courses full-year courses, or were they electives?
They were both semester electives.
Okay. Well, I completely...
We may have taken them from elective to core if they're in U.S. history.
That's where they should be, I think.
Absolutely.
So, they should be.
What I was saying is they could be in 2 places. That's what I was really saying. Yeah. That and other, other groups in history.
Right. Okay, so committee, are we ready to send this to the full board? All right, that would be 3-0. Yes?
On both the approval of the new courses and the retirement courses?
Yes, yes. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought it was all a package.
Thank you.
Thank you to the teachers too that presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Come back again sometime.
I realized like a minute ago I was in your seat.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Matter. I'm going to get this now. Mrs. Matter, Dr. Reynolds. Joining us at the table to talk about SAT, AP student achievement data.
You want to sit over here. So, yeah, if you want to sit here, I'll move.
Writing on your tablet?
Yes, absolutely. All good things.
The microphone is only here for.
Microphone? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Take the mic from me. I'll go sit over here now.
Good evening. Mrs. Matter and I are here before you this evening to present our achievement data for our advanced placement scores, our AP scores, as well as our SAT data for this evening. So if we begin, we're going to start right with our, can you hear me? Thank you. We're going to begin right with our AP data for this evening, our College Board data.
Thank you.
We're going to begin with a holistic picture, sharing with you the results for our students for each of our high schools. And in looking at this holistic picture, we're going to present the performance of our students for all of the students in a cohort. So for instance, if you advance the slide, we're going to start with looking at East High School. What you see before you is a summary data that has all of the students across the school, particularly if we look at the 2021 school year. Those are all of the students that we have in that graduating class. And of the students, 41.6% scored at least a 3 or higher on this AP assessment. So the chart that you see a breakdown, it has just the trend data as far as starting in 2017, 44.5% of students, that's all of the students in that graduating class. So when we take a look as far as access and equity, we're saying who is available to access that course, and of the students that it's available to, we have 3 that scored a, 44.5% in 2017, scored a 3 or higher. In 2018, 35.1. In 2019, 38.3. So forth and so on. For 2021, that number 41.6%. The breakdown is also indicated as far as the visual that you see to the sides, showing you by cohort what percent of students within a particular grade level scored at least a 3 or higher on one AP test. And that's for East High School. If we transition over to Henderson, the same depiction. So if we take a look at that trend data starting for 2017, 43.9% of students within the graduated class scored at least a 3 or higher in one test. And if we go all the way over to 2021, that number is 38.1% of students within that graduating class scored a 3 or higher. If we take a look at the breakdown for each of those grade levels, you can see for 12th grade in 2021, we had 13.9%, or 11th grade 25.2%, and for 10th grade 15.4%. We know that the difference between 2020 and 2021, there were differences as far as what the exam looked like. Particularly, students were able to take the exam in 2020. They were able to access that at home. It was online. It was a shorter assessment. In 2021, we know the impact of changing schedules and the shift as far as the rigor, making sure that we were providing students with access, but also just managing what last year looked like. So we do anticipate to see some changes in those numbers, but overall, if we take a look at from the lens of access for those students, those numbers by and large are holding steady when we look at 38.1% in comparison to 2020 and 2019. The access for our students has stayed pretty steady. That's for Henderson. If we move forward now to Ruston, we go back. Can we do Ruston first? Yep. So for Ruston, if we start with 2017, we had 36.6% of students that scored a 3 or higher for that graduating class. And if we move over to 2021, 36.1% of students within that graduating class scored a 3 or higher. So pretty much down to the decimal points there as far as equity and access and equity percentage, we're at the same place that we were. If we take a look at the breakdown by grade level, for our 12th graders, again, for 2020, 12.6% scored a 3 or higher. For 11th grade, 24.5, and then for 10th grade, 13.5. And the visual to the side provides just a better picture for you to see the breakdown. What Ms. Matter is going to take us through is what that looks like for only the students that took the AP assessment. So we're looking at all of the students. What we're going to do is we're going to now take a look at a comparison for students that just took the AP assessment.
I'll scoot over to you.
Right. Good evening, Mr. McCune. Good evening, Ms. Chester. Good evening, Mr. Durnell. Good evening, Ms. Tiernan. Good evening, Mr. Bevilacqua. Good evening, Mr. Speckman, and good evening, Dr. Herman. So I'm looking forward to sharing this data. It's going to be, as Dr. Reynolds presented, just a more disaggregated breakdown of our AP exam scholars. And the snapshot that we're offering tonight is district, the averages there, in regards to the averages at the high schools, East Henderson and also Ruston. Just wanted to make a quick note of one category, which is our AP, the National AP Scholar. College Board as of 2021. This is something that's changed. They are no longer calculating that as of 2021. So I just wanted to put that out there if you all are seeing data from 2017, 18, 19, 20, and then you see the NA here, we're 2021. Just take note that College Board no longer uses a calculation. However, in previous years, you can see that we did have a number of AP scholars who received a 4 or better on their AP test. And so to have this broken down, where I'm going to go descending, essentially. But you have the AP scholars with distinction. These are the students who got at least a 3.5 on all AP exams taken. So in a category, it's broken down by scores of a 3 or higher on 5 or more AP exams. And so our numbers are there, and as you can see, it pretty much coincides with our pandemic year, where in 2020, the kids were still functioning, and we were as well, with the shutdown under normal circumstances, for lack of a better word. And so you see the dip going into 2021 as far as those kiddos who got the AP Scholar with distinction. So I just wanted to point that out. In addition to the AP Scholars with honors, with the students who received at least a 3.25 on all their AP exams taken, a score of 3 or higher with 4 or more of these exams. And so we do have, again, broken down by high schools, district averages, and it's pretty much the same trend pre-pandemic or in pandemic functioning under normal circumstances, and then post. And then the next slide, which is, I'm going to show you guys as far as the students who received a 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. And you can see the same trends for the most part regarding the students' scoring. And again, a dip in our scores. Kids still did well, but there was a dip, obviously, given our current situation. Just to give you a visual of what that looks like, I have provided that here, where you can see in chart formation, it's broken down by 2017, 18, 19, 20, etc., and also 2021. And then it's color-coded according to the high school, where you can see a visual of the trends of the number of AP scholars that we have here in the Westchester Area School District. In participation, Dr. Reynolds' slides pretty much, as she mentioned, gave a snapshot of overall the students. And again, they don't account for it if a student is unable, for whatever reason, or not enrolled into an AP course. This is a snapshot of the students who actually participated in the AP and took an AP exam and scored a 3 or more. And so I just wanted to highlight East High School first. And as you can see, in 2020, when you go there, you're looking at 84% of the students In 2020, scored a 3 or higher. And then in 2021, there was a dip. And again, we all know what happened there to indicate that dip. We also mentioned, Dr. Salpalasi and Dr. Reynolds mentioned, as far as just the changes in the whole AP testing process, which could have been a variable as well in these scores. Moving on to Henderson. Henderson High School also had, again, 82% of their students, when you're looking at 2019-2020, where they had 82% each year, and then we had a 62% dip looking at the pandemic year. In addition, we had, again, less kids participating as well. However, there was a significant dip, at Henderson High School. And as we look at Ruston High School, again, we're seeing similar trends where there's a dip, where in 2020, there's actually an increase from 2019 to 2020, and then it went back down to 72% for the number of students who are, again, participating in these exams. And it's always the goal, of course, is to pretty much increase the access supports for the students. So we have more students who are able to participate and also eventually scored a 3. And 3 is used as a performance measure as far as our state numbers and our data. Is actually calculated as far as our performance measure. So just to give you an idea regarding that 3. Okay, I'm going to move on to SAT data. But before I do that, did the board have any questions regarding what was just presented regarding the AP data? Or may I carry on?
Dawn, excuse me, Mrs. Matter, Dr. Reynolds, perhaps in the spring, at a later time, for parents who are listening, people who may be listening outside or who don't have children in high school yet, they may be saying, what is the deal with AP? Why AP classes? Why do we take them? Does that equal college acceptance? With the drop in AP kids taking the test, does that mean we had a drop in college acceptances? Is there any correlation? Do they matter? Those are important questions for us to be able to, as a board, understand. And as if you're a parent and your children have not gotten into high school yet, it's important to understand, why do we want people to take AP courses? So I think that goes hand in hand with your job as assessment coordinator. Assessments are critical, and they're certainly critical to college acceptance and a sense that they're doing well. And we want to look at them by high school. We want to see who's doing the best. But what does it matter? But how does it really matter? And so, if we can talk about that sometime, I know not tonight, but sometime at a later date, I think it's part of the assessment of how our children do all the way through. It's a final assessment. AP courses are tough, they're hard. The fact that we have this many kids getting 3, 4s, and 5s is really something to be proud of. But it might be good to hear why. So, that's for a future date. Just put that back in your file, and then we'll talk about that maybe in the spring. And thank you.
Ms. Tiernan, perhaps I'm dating myself, but I'll put it in my Rolodex.
Whatever you use as a file now, I don't know. Here, piece of paper. Okay.
Okay.
On with the SATs.
All right, on to the SAT. So again, just wanted to give you guys a snapshot as far as what we saw with our SAT data, which is also, again, just like the AP data, is a measure that uses in order to judge us, for lack of a better word, in our performance. So we gave you guys pretty much an outline of 2019, 2020, and also 2021. Okay, and when you look at the number of test takers, if you may, look at, I know we have an audience behind me as well. 2019, when you're looking at the number of test takers district-wide. So this number right here is a combination of East plus Henderson, plus Ruston, okay? So you're looking at the number here, this is normal year. 2020, this is when pandemic year hit. However, we were still operating under normal pretenses. And then when you look at 2021, it's like, well, we're looking at 575 students who are testing. However, I mean, when you look at the scores relative to previous years, the scores were actually increased, but we had less people who were testing, and again, a lot of different variables. Colleges did not, they made the announcement in order to try to support students during this awful time, as far as them not requiring SAT for college admissions. So there were kids who sought this out, but the question remains is that those kids with a higher level of access, are those the kids who went and sought this out and then therefore got the higher scores? You know, then we're looking at a 300-person dip in this data here. And then with the COVID year, pandemic year and ongoing, the class of 2020, the class of 2021, and then the class of 2022, SATs are not required for admissions. However, 2023 is still pending, which is our current juniors. So we don't know what colleges are doing at this moment, but we're looking at 3 classes prior where SATs weren't required. So I just wanted to put that out there. This slide here is pretty much a breakdown of our SAT math, our SAT English, writing, and language, and there's 2 years here. We're looking at 2020, and we're looking at 2021, and again, as I indicated before, there's been an increase in our scores, but one thing that I do like to highlight for us is that the Westchester Area School District is that we're still above the state average, and we're still above the national average, even in spite of this pandemic situation, which is a testament to the work of the students and the teachers here as far as like holding steady when others were getting hit tremendously. Now this slide here I found very interesting because again, there was an increase, you know, during the pandemic year, but when we disaggregated this data, male, female, we also listed Asian, Black, Hispanic, white, 2 more races, and trying to really break down, you know, our historically underrepresented groups here, and then looking at our male-female data. What we saw really wasn't that surprising when you look at our data on our district website, and we've had plenty of conversations. There's some things we're seeing regarding males being level higher in our math classes, our science courses, and our female students being level higher in our English ELA courses. So this data here, in addition to the data here that's really broken down male, female in each category, is really an indication of that, where we're seeing higher scores. And again, there are some exceptions here, but we're seeing a higher trend as far as the math scores in our male students. And then our English, our ELA scores are higher among our female students. And again, it's one of these things that this is what we're doing, that we have been doing, examining this, figuring out the why behind it, and then making sure we're reducing those barriers in order to have all of our students having access and having an opportunity in order to have a shot as far as performing well on all of these tests. And with that being said, just a quick thank you for coming out, and I was just going to move on to the side and allow Dr. Reynolds to come on over and kind of recap what you guys all saw, give a couple of next step items, and then if you guys have any questions for us, we will gladly field them, okay? Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you. I think to Ms. Matter's point, this celebrates the work of our students as well as our teachers, particularly all the things that they had to manage and navigate during the past couple of years as far as all things pandemic related. Our work currently now and moving forward is definitely seated within our comprehensive plan as far as our core goal areas as well as our high school scheduling. We have a scheduling meeting tomorrow and we're looking forward to keeping you apprised of that progress moving forward as far as what considerations do we need to explore as we take a look at making sure that our teachers have time to work together, increased time to work together to make sure that we're continuing to expand access and opportunity for all of our students. And we're also continuing to keep our pulse on as far as where can we best support students that may not have positioned themselves to take a higher level course. So that's one of many areas that we'll be exploring moving forward for the upcoming school year. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you both for updating us, and we'll continue to look forward to hearing from you as we come out of COVID and do some interesting things, I think, with encouraging kids to take ever-challenging courses and supporting them as they do. So thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
That concludes, am I correct? That concludes, yes? That concludes the Education Committee meeting, and Ms. Chester will be taking over with the Pupil Services Committee meeting.
Okay, let's take a 1-minute break.
Okay. Joyce, would you like to sit up here? Okay.
let's first, get an okay, a vote for the minutes. Last,
Yes?
yes, yes, and
Just
yes.
public
And
comment.
now?
Ms. Chester, I think.
Oh, I'm
Public
sorry,
comment.
public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Chester. This evening, we have one registrant for public comment. Before we get underway, I will just remind the public that public comments are limited to 2 minutes per person per board policy. The time will be projected on the screen. At the end of the 2-minute period, the comments will cease. Public comments are to be on the Pupil Services Committee meeting agenda items only. All commentary should be directed to the committee as a whole and not to individual committee members. Comments may be interrupted or terminated if the public commentary is too lengthy, personally directed, off-topic, abusive, and/or obscene. With that, I will call now Nancy Wood.
Hi, Nancy Wood, 300 Shropshire Drive. My comment is in regard to, thank you. My comment is in regard to the revised student record policy and FERPA administrative guidelines governing school directory data. And I would just like to thank the board and administration for continuing to provide school directory information to our parent-teacher organizations. School family directories have an extremely positive impact on community building and inclusion, especially at the elementary level. Family directories also help PTOs communicate with parents more efficiently and without wasting time of school administrators and teachers. Additionally, school directories assist our PTO fundraising efforts to support our schools. As an example, Hillsdale Elementary PTO recently leveraged the fundraising module in our online school directory to help with holding a Move-a-thon fundraiser that educated our students about healthy, active lifestyles and raised over $12,000, which will go directly to support field trips, assemblies, extracurricular activities, supplies, financial aid, and other needs at the school. With FERPA opt-out options, as well as school and family level mechanisms for controlling what content information is shared, all parents have the ability to protect their privacy or decline participation in the directory. So thank you for continuing to support family directories as an inclusive community building tool for our schools and parent-teacher organization. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that feedback. So now can we get approval again on the minutes? We're good, 1, 2, 3?
Yes.
So we will turn it over to Dr. Ranieri to talk further about the student record policy and the directory.
Thank you, Mrs. Chester, I really appreciate that. So as was just mentioned, there was one comment that we are making, or one change that we're making to our student record policy 216 is to allow directory information to include the parent phone number and parent email. So it was just kind of a little glitch that we were able to share student information by our FERPA opt-out form, but unfortunately we were not able to provide parent information without having to go through a lot of work on the parent side to have to enter that manually. So this will allow us through the policy, and then I'll share with the FERPA form to be able to share that at the beginning of the year unless the parents decide that they do not want that shared. So the one comment that's changed is parent phone number and parent electronic mail address is added. Okay, so that we have to vote on the policy first.
Any comments from the committee or the board? As long as there's opt-out, that's good.
Okay, no comments, so can I get a vote?
Yes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, so it goes 3-0. And then, oh goodness, let's see, it should be hopefully here. Okay, good. So then the information that is changed on our FERPA opt-out, which is our AG 216 AG1 is, you'll see directory information defined in policy 216, and it allows us to include parent email and parent phone number as part of that directory information. We typically don't have to approve AGs, but I wanted to make sure that it was out there publicly, what were the changes that we're making. The PTOs have been very supportive of this and very much appreciate the change. Any questions on this?
No, do you need you don't
Yes.
need you would like a vote.
I just want to be clear, do parents then have to opt in, or they have to opt out?
They opt out.
All right, so it will be included unless they opt out.
Correct. And then my understanding is with the software that most of the PTOs use, parents have the ability to go in and actually change what they want to have available and not available. So there's lots of opportunity.
That seems like a big help for the PTOs, though.
It is very much.
Yeah.
We changed some language a few years back in the AG, but then recently learned that although we did open it up to student information, it did not include the parent phone number and parent email, and so we wanted to make sure that it was very clear as to what we were going to be disclosing.
That seems to make sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So can we get a vote on that committee?
Yes.
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 And yes.
Thank
3
you.
to 0.
So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Matter to talk to you a little bit about discipline data.
Okay, good evening again. I have a report here, and just for the sake of full transparency, I had the pleasure in the early fall of interviewing with 6ABC, who actually reached out to the Westchester Area School District because they are doing a report across the city of Philadelphia and the PA suburbs regarding inequities across the area. We're talking about housing, we're talking about police stops, we're talking about educational inequities. So they reached out specifically to us because they wanted to know what we were doing regarding our discipline data, because they've seen huge inequities across the area regarding our historically underperforming students and our kids of color. And they want to know why that is, and what are some reasons for that being, and then also solutions for that. And so this data that I'm presenting tonight is a snapshot of discipline data across our district, and then it's also broken down by the county, Chester County, in addition to our state discipline data as well. So when we're looking at the suspensions, and keep in mind this is dated 2019-2020, so I just want to preface it by saying that this is the Westchester Area School District, and it was several categories that the data was actually broken down by, which and I spoke very candidly to 6ABC about, and it's state reporting, where we're looking at academic conduct, drug and alcohol, tobacco, violence, and also weapons. So when you look at our district, it's approximately 12,000 students. Our numbers are actually low, and I'm going to show you the county and the state numbers. However, there's still some disproportionality issues within our numbers. Because when you look at our Hispanic students, which is approximately 6.9% of the population in the Westchester Area School District, our Black African American category, 4.5%, and then our white students, who are about 76.6% approximately, we're looking at disproportionality is lower, but in the data. So you're looking at, for a total population of white students, you're looking at 0.08% of these students who are being, just using conduct, are being, having suspensions for conduct. I just use that number, and as you can see, the violence number is a lot lower. So we're probably looking at 0.1% or less, 0.2%, probably 0.3 given the math. And when you look at our Hispanic students and our Black students, our Hispanic students are about 2.1% of just the conduct infractions, and then our Black students are looking at 2.3% of the conduct suspension. So I just wanted to break that down briefly, just to kind of give it some context. So you're looking at proportion, still low, but we still have to do some work regarding that. Can we move on to the county, Chester County suspensions? So when you look at Chester County, it's a huge jump compared to what you just saw here in the Westchester Area School District. So those numbers are definitely glaring, and I didn't exactly do the calculations here, but the graph pretty much speaks for itself. When you're looking at our Black and Hispanic students who are higher as far as the conduct, the violence, things like that, compared to our Caucasian white students, it's lower, but still it's a difference from what we're doing here in Westchester. And when you look at the state data, it truly is jaw-dropping, for lack of a better word, because when you're looking at the number of students, and this is like in the 16, 17, upwards to 22,000 range statewide, as far as the number of students who are being disciplined. And again, you look at high numbers as far as violence, and you're also looking at high numbers regarding conduct. So when I was asked regarding, well, listen, you guys' numbers are low here in Westchester. So, what are you doing here in Westchester that other people are not doing, or why do you think there's a disproportionate amount of suspensions? So one of the things that I credited and I told 6ABC is this is due to our equity work. And this is also due to our SEL initiative as well. This is social emotional learning. So if a student's coming in the door, we are treating that student and we're not afraid, and we're saying, instead of like reacting to something that happened, a bad day, putting their head down, we're engaging that student and we're asking, how can we help you? Instead of coming in, oh, you're late for school, our approach is that, you know what, I'm so happy you could make it. Just sit down, put your head down, get yourself together, and when you're ready to join the group, we are ready for you. So our equity work and our SEL training towards our teachers is so important as far as why our numbers are disproportionately lower compared to the county and also the state. Something else regarding our equity work, Bob and I are on a comprehensive the strategic planning with the Westchester Police Department, and Chief Moorhead, he said the same exact thing. And I hope I'm sorry, Chief James Moorhead. He also talked about how there are certain things that we have to be considerate about when he's doing his policing, and we have our students. We had a lot of parallels. One of the things was this bias training that the chief and I and Dr. Sokolowski spoke very candidly about. That everybody has, good intentions, but there are blind spots. Some blind spots we don't even know about. And so the police department, just like we're doing here, we do these implicit bias training because we don't want to look at somebody's expression or somebody's color as a barrier and then make automatic judgments. Also, what we're doing in addition to Chief Moorhead, as far as diversifying, he's doing his police department, we're doing our staff here. Because it's important as far as having, different diverse experiences when you're educating kids, or in Chief's situation, when you're trying to police the community. So just those things that we're doing help to keep our numbers low. And then additionally, again, our SEL work. Just making sure this is like a brain-based situation that's based off of science, and talking about the amygdala, the fight or flight response, things like that, where how we're dealing with our kids, we have a different approach, hence the reason why our numbers are so much lower than the average. So I just happened to, have this when I did the interview. They're still working on it. It's a big project they have out. It's beautiful as far as pointing out these inequities, but I was very, Westchester, we're doing a great job. Still have work to do. We can look at the numbers, we can tell, but there's a lot of work to do as far as trying to bring these numbers down, but really checking our own selves and making sure that things aren't getting in the way of when we serve kids. And so I didn't know if you guys had any questions regarding the discipline data.
I think I was the person that requested the discipline data. Well, I know I was, but I'm glad to see the trend moving in the right direction. So that makes me feel so much so comforted. And I think it is a lot of the equity work, the mental health work, the social emotional learning work, and so I stand behind that. I think we need to keep pressing on where that's concerned, and really happy for this report, because at one time it wasn't so shining. So this is definitely moving in the right direction.
definitely trending that way, and it's interesting you mentioned the mental health component, which also with our social emotional learning and equity. You know, equity is part of all the whole conglomerate, and Chief Moore had said the same thing, that his officers not only have implicit bias, they also have mental health training as far as when someone's in crisis, we're not automatically going to fear and getting in trouble. We're just trying to, there's de-escalation training that we do. We just try to, you know, in the moment, trying to support those kids, and we have a ton of mental health services available at our schools. And so that is a testament to our numbers being lower. And, you know, hopefully the next time we meet, they'll be even lower and more proportionate based off of our kiddos here.
I think it's important because we're giving them tools that they're gonna need once they leave this place. So I had somebody tell me today, I had to put my car in the shop and had a long talk with a gentleman that worked at Fred Bean's Volkswagen. And he's a service manager and was saying to me that he had to go through a mental health assessment before they accepted him for the job. And I said, to repair cars? And he said, yes, because that's how we work. So it's a, you know, it's big here in the school, it'll be big once they leave the school. You know, their job may require that kind of readiness, it probably will. So that's very encouraging, thank you. Any comments from the committee?
I was just, I appreciate all the data that you put together. I was wondering if I know last year with COVID, it would be difficult to get this type of data in any meaningful way, but I was wondering if there were previous years to 2019, 2020 that we could take a look at to see the trend.
And perhaps I can put that in my Rolodex.
I think we had previous years.
There's the Safe
previous-
Schools report that has to
Yeah.
go in every year that has data, and I don't think you had necessarily pulled it from here. It was from other sources, but that's
I see.
we've been able to report from that. That is an annual report that is put out at the end of the school year.
Incorrect, and just when I did the interview with 6ABC, we just focused on that piece of the data, but there is more data out there, so noted.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I believe our Pupil Services meeting is concluded. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well done.